It is a Friday evening. Your phone lights up on the coffee table. The group chat is buzzing with rapid-fire messages coordinating dinner plans, picking a crowded venue, and figuring out logistics. You stare at the screen, and instead of excitement, you feel a cold, heavy dread settling in the pit of your stomach. You start typing out an excuse, a headache, a vague work emergency, a family obligation. You hit send. And the moment you do, a massive wave of euphoric relief washes over you. You slowly lock the door, pull the blinds, and embrace the absolute silence. Society looks at this behavior and slaps a convenient pathological label on it. They tell you you are depressed. They tell you you have severe social anxiety, that you are a loner, a recluse, or that you're tragically wasting the prime years of your youth by hiding away in your bedroom. But what if society is entirely wrong? What if your aggressive isolation isn't a symptom of a broken brain, but a highly calculated rejection of a toxic social matrix? What if you aren't hiding from the world at all, but actively protecting your peace from an environment designed to drain you? Welcome to Psychology with Jarvis. Today, we are going to dissect the brutal, dark truth behind why refusing to socialize might just be the ultimate power move, but also how it secretly masks a profound psychological defense mechanism that could be destroying you from the inside out. Let's break down the actual psychology of what happens when you step out your front door. The core illusion we are sold is that modern socialization is about authentic human connection. It isn't. For the vast majority of people, modern socialization is a highly scripted, exhausting performance. When you enter a social space, your brain immediately takes on a massive cognitive load. You are simultaneously reading micro-expressions, monitoring your own body language, calculating the social hierarchy of the room, and filtering your authentic thoughts to ensure they fit the acceptable narrative of the group. It is exhausting. To cope with this, many of us engage in social fawning. Fawning is a trauma response where you preemptively appease others to avoid conflict. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny, you agree with opinions you despise, you shrink your personality to make others comfortable. Furthermore, we are living through a systemic dopamine hijack. Our brains have been rewired by algorithms, infinite scrolling, and instant digital gratification. Real-world social interactions, which are messy, unpredictable, and often tedious, simply cannot compete with the finely tuned dopamine loops available on the supercomputer in your pocket. Your brain is incredibly efficient. It runs an unconscious cost-benefit analysis on your social life and realizes that the return on investment is drastically negative. The energy expended far outweighs the emotional nourishment received. So it initiates a hardwired survival protocol. Your brain convinces you that staying home is an escape hatch from the artificial expectations of the modern tribe. It feels like a victory. But is it? I want to pause right here and ask you a question, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Think about the last time you bailed on a social event. What is your absolute go-to bulletproof excuse when you want to back out of plans at the last possible minute? Do you blame your digestive system, a toxic boss? Do you pretend you double-booked yourself? Or do you just hit them with the classic, "I'm dealing with a migraine"? Go down to the comments right now and tell me exactly what your signature excuse is. I want you to look through that comment section. You are going to see thousands of other people doing the exact same thing, utilizing the exact same lies to buy back their freedom. Reading those confessions will make you feel infinitely less alone in your avoidance. Do it right now. Now, let's go deeper and expose the uncomfortable reality. Framing your chronic isolation as self-care or protecting your peace is a highly effective way to lie to yourself. The controversial truth is that your refusal to socialize is often a covert manifestation of a desperate need for control. When you stay inside the four walls of your apartment, you are the undisputed god of your domain. You dictate the temperature, the ambient noise, the entertainment, and the lighting. You never have to compromise. Out there, in the real world, you are terrifyingly vulnerable to the chaos of other people's neuroses, their bad moods, their unhealed trauma, and their unpredictable reactions. By refusing to play the social game, you are effectively telling society that you reject its currency entirely. You are taking your ball and going home. But this behavior is also a brilliant form of psychological self-sabotage and manipulation. It is a preemptive strike against rejection. You cannot be judged, you cannot be misunderstood, you cannot be socially ousted, and you cannot be abandoned if you simply refuse to be in the room in the first place. Your isolation is not always a sign of quiet strength. Very often, it is an elaborate, socially acceptable cowardice. You are controlling the narrative by eliminating the possibility of anyone ever getting close enough to challenge it. Why do you really do this? This level of aggressive avoidance rarely materializes out of nowhere. It almost always stems from the deep psychology forged in your formative years. If you grew up in a chaotic household, an environment that was emotionally unpredictable, or with caregivers who demanded a high level of emotional labor, your developing brain learned a very specific lesson. Other people equals stress. Perhaps you were the parentified child, the one who had to manage everyone else's feelings while suppressing your own. You learned early on that relationships are transactional and exhausting. Consequently, you developed into a hyper-independent adult. You don't isolate because you inherently hate people. You isolate because you are absolutely terrified of being consumed by them. Deep down, lying beneath the armor of your introversion, is a subconscious fear of feeling unlovable. There is a quiet, haunting voice in your psyche whispering that if you show up in the world as your messy, authentic, unfiltered self, you will not be enough. Or conversely, you will be too much for people to handle. Staying home, wrapped in a blanket, watching a documentary, becomes a fortress against the profound vulnerability of being truly known by another human being. It is easier to be alone by choice than to be alone because someone looked at the real you and walked away. If you are squirming in your seat right now, if your chest feels a little tight because this analysis feels uncomfortably accurate and a little too loud, good. That means we are hitting the nerve that needs to be exposed. Here on Psychology with Jarvis, we do not do surface-level platitudes. We don't peddle toxic positivity. We decode the dark, hidden, and uncomfortable parts of the mind that secretly dictate the trajectory of your life. If you want to stop living on autopilot, if you are tired of your own excuses and want to finally understand the mechanics of your own brain, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. We have a lot more work to do. Let's keep digging. What happens if you ignore this behavior? What happens if you continue to convince yourself that permanent isolation is just a quirk of your personality? If you do not fix this behavior, the walls of your comfortable fortress will inevitably thicken until they turn into a prison. The peace you fought so hard to cultivate will eventually become a deafening, suffocating silence. Human beings require friction to evolve. We need our ideas challenged, our egos bruised, and our perspectives widened by the presence of others. When you remove that friction entirely, you experience emotional atrophy. Your tolerance for minor inconveniences will plummet to zero. A slightly rude cashier or a delayed text message will send you into a tailspin because you have lost your psychological calluses. You will slowly develop a deep, passive-aggressive resentment toward the outside world, convincing yourself that everyone out there is stupid, shallow, and toxic while you sit alone on your moral high ground. You will eventually win the game of total independence, but your grand prize will be a life defined by total, unyielding paralysis. You will survive, but you will cease to live. So how do we fix this? How do we break the loop? It requires brutal accountability and the application of actionable, tough love psychology. The antidote is what I call strategic discomfort. First, you must immediately stop confusing avoidance with boundaries. They are not the same thing. A boundary is looking a friend in the eye and saying, "I value you, but I only have the energy to stay for an hour today." Avoidance is leaving them on red for 3 days and blaming your mental health. You need to start microdosing socialization to build your tolerance back up. You do not need to go to a massive nightclub or a crowded dinner party. Start by taking your laptop to a local coffee shop. Exist in the periphery of humanity. Share physical space with other people without the heavy pressure to perform or converse. Let your nervous system recognize that the presence of the tribe is not an immediate existential threat. When you do engage socially, you must consciously stop fawning. Practice being slightly disagreeable. If someone asks your opinion on a movie and you hated it, say you hated it. Reclaim your authenticity in public. If you learn how to be your real self around others, you will no longer feel the desperate need to flee to the privacy of your bedroom just to remember who you are. This process will be incredibly uncomfortable. Your brain will scream at you to retreat, but leaning into that discomfort is the only way out of the maze. I am going to leave you with one simple, real-world homework assignment. The very next time someone texts you asking to hang out and your instinct is to lie, I want you to tell the absolute, unvarnished truth instead. Reply and say, "I really appreciate the invite, but I just don't have the social battery for that right now." No fake illnesses, no elaborate stories, just the truth. I want you to go to the comments right now and declare your commitment to this action. Type, "I commit to the truth." Hold yourself publicly accountable. Thank you for facing these uncomfortable realities with me today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Psychology with Jarvis so we can continue breaking down the barriers of your mind. Stay aware, stay intentional, and I'll see you in the next one.